Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Catherine, and I work with SEB Housing. This is the information session for the one affordable home being made available at Village at Silver Hill in Weston. And this is an age-restricted lottery, so households must have at least one member who is over the age of 55 to qualify for the lottery. Just wanted to put that out there up front. So the purpose of this information session is to give a little bit of background information on the home. We're also going to cover the application, the eligibility and lottery processes, and what to expect after the lottery itself. So if you have any questions during the meeting, you're encouraged to either type them into the Zoom chat that you should see on your screen there or on your phone. And you can also unmute yourself if you have a question. I'll be asking throughout the presentation if anyone has questions. When you came into the meeting, you were muted. We just ask that you mute yourself after asking a question so we minimize any noise coming in. And then this is a live session. When you came into the meeting, you were told that it was being recorded. That's because this recording will be available on SEB Housing's YouTube channel after tonight. So it's going to be there available for anyone who wasn't able to attend that's interested in viewing it. If you have any questions after tonight, so if you have questions that you maybe didn't think to ask while we're together here, you can email us at info@sebhousing.com. That's the easiest way to get in touch with us, but you can also call us at the number on your screen there, the 617 number, and ask us any questions about the lottery or the affordable housing program itself. So just as we get started, I want to give you some background information on who we are. SEB Housing, we are an off-site affordable housing consulting group. So we've been hired by the developer to market the affordable home, conduct this information session, collect and review applications from applicants who are applying for the lottery, determine those applicants' eligibility, and then ultimately run the lottery. So we're not the on-site development team or the sales team. We haven't seen the home in person. So in the initial phases, we're going to be your main point of contact rather than the sales team. We're going to review your application and the supporting documents that you'll eventually be required to submit if you're at the top of the waiting list following the lottery. And you'll be given SEB Housing will be giving you a position on the waiting list following the lottery. The second step in the process is to actually reserve and buy the home. And that's the point in the process where you'll be in touch with the sales team at Silver Hill. The information packet that's available on our website is the document that I'm going to be calling most of this information from tonight. Page 11 of that information packet has an approximate timeline for each of those processes. First step is really just applying for the affordable housing lottery and program. And then the second step would be actually reserving and buying the home. So if you haven't already done so, like I said, go to our website, sebhousing.com. And you could, if you click on I want to buy, since this is a home ownership opportunity, you would select I want to buy under affordable housing opportunities, and you would then select Village at Silver Hill. You'll be taken to a page specific to this property with a downloadable version of the application, a sample deed rider, which we'll talk more about, and the information packet. I'm not going to have time to cover everything that's in the information packet. I am going to be going over the main points. So it's recommended that even if you attend this session or you're watching this after the fact, that you take a look at that information packet so you have all of the information about this opportunity. So on the website listing for Village at Silver Hill, you're going to see a QR code and a jot form link to the online application. We're encouraging everybody to complete the online application. It's going to be the quickest way for you to apply for this opportunity, and it's going to ensure that your application is received right away. Once you submit that online application, you'll receive a confirmation email. And if for any reason the online application doesn't work for you or it's not an option for you, you can download the lottery application that's on our website, or you can request a paper copy to complete. If you choose that option, you can submit the application to us in one of several ways. You could email or scan it back to us. You could fax it to us. The fax number is on the first page. of the paper application. Or if you're in the Needham area, you can drop it in our 24-hour drop box located at our office in Needham. The address is 257 Hillside Ave. We check that box each day. So whatever one of those options works best for you, that's how you're going to get your lottery application into us for this opportunity. But again, we do encourage you to utilize that online application form if you can. You're encouraged to get your lottery application in early. It is fairly brief since we do not require any supporting documentation at this early stage in the process. It should only take you about 10 minutes to complete. Later on in the process, like I said, you will have to submit income asset tax documentation, but that would be following the lottery if you're one of the top households. A mortgage pre-approval is not required to be submitted with your application. However, it will be a requirement after the lottery if you're invited to move forward in the process. So because of that, we do recommend that you obtain your mortgage pre-approval as soon as possible, since it might take a week or more to get from the lender. You will have that ready if you start that process now. Lottery applications are due by June 26th at 2 p.m. So that online application link will not be available after 2 p.m. on the 26th. So that's a little bit under a month away. Same thing with paper applications. They have to be postmarked by the due date, which is June 26th again, in order to be considered for the lottery. You do not need to be a resident of Weston to apply for this lottery. There's no local preference or anything like that for this home. So just want to put that out there. Any questions about logistics, getting your application in? Can everybody hear me okay? If there's any issues with that, let me know. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the home itself next. All right, so this is a 3-bedroom single-family home. It's located within a new development called Village at Silver Hill, which is located at 16 Peaks Lane in Weston. The community is going to have a total of 8 new homes, and this is the lottery for the only affordable home that's being made available within that development at Silver Hill. The home features a spacious floor plan. There's over 2,100 square feet of living space. There's a landscaped yard with a patio. There's an unfinished basement and a 2-car garage. The kitchen comes with quality appliances, and there is a $237 monthly condo fee, which covers, I should say, common area landscaping, snow removal, trash and recycling pickup, and then common area insurance. The home is expected to be ready for occupancy shortly after the lottery, which is going to take place on July 11th. The price of the home is $277,800. This is priced significantly below market rate homes in Weston, and then also within the development. I was seeing online that homes within within Silver Hill itself are selling for around $1.7 million. As many of you, I'm sure, know, Weston is a sought-after community. So since this is a home that is going to be sold at that affordable price, it's only being made available to households with incomes at or below 80% of the area median income, which you'll sometimes hear referred to as AMI. AMI amounts are issued or published by the Department of Housing and Community Development, so HUD, and Weston falls within that Metro Boston area. I see a couple questions here, so I'm gonna go in there. Okay, so someone is saying here, Christine, thanks for letting me know. Same with you, Laura. Hopefully my connection is not having an issue. Yeah, if anything is missed, let me know as we go along. So since this is an affordable home, you're going to keep in mind that it will have what's called a deed rider filed along with the deed at the time of purchase. And that deed rider ensures that the home remains affordable in the future, even if the owner eventually chooses to sell the home. So just a quick overview on what the deed rider entails. So the deed rider limits the amount for which you can eventually resell the property. So this opportunity isn't for you if you're looking to buy something, flip it, or resell within a year or two. That doesn't mean you can't eventually sell the property for more than you paid for it, but it will have to be resold to another affordable buyer. So you may have some return on investment, but you shouldn't expect the same appreciation that market rate homes sometimes sell for. There is a formula for resale price of the affordable home, and that's on the last page of the information packet. It's also based on the area median income. The deed rider also says that this must be your primary residence. Generally, you can't rent it out as an investment property like an Airbnb or a Vrbo. And also the deed rider says that if you'd like to refinance or make capital improvements such as a new roof in the future, the Department of Housing and Community Development, so the state agency that oversees this affordable housing program, would need to approve of the capital improvement. Again, this is a brand new home. It's not likely that you need to make any sort of improvements like that for many years. And so I mentioned that the mortgage pre-approval is required to be submitted along with your lottery application. It's not actually required along with your lottery application, but it will be required if you are one of the top households. So when you're going to, after the lottery that is, if you're going to the bank or the lender within the next few weeks, if you're interested in this opportunity to get that mortgage pre-approval, we always suggest that you take page 10 of the information packet with you. You can just rip it out, you can bring it to them, make a copy, whatever you'd like to do. We suggest that because it lists the mortgage pre-approval standards for this housing opportunity, and the lender will want to see those because you want to make sure that you're getting a mortgage product that is going to meet the necessary standards of the deed rider. You can also bring a sample copy of the deed rider itself, which is on our website listing. And the information there sometimes can be problematic for lenders, so that's why you want to make sure they see it up front. There are certain loans that will not accept all terms of a deed rider. So for example, the loan for this program must have a fixed interest rate throughout the term of the mortgage. It also cannot be an FHA or VA loan, since those types of loans don't accept the deed restrictions. You don't want to be in a situation where you've been granted the mortgage pre-approval, but then the lender backs out when you're trying to get your mortgage commitment once they've been made aware of those resale restrictions that are associated with affordable housing properties. So up front, you want to make sure they have all that information from you. Sort of along those lines, we always like to mention that in our experience, it's been very difficult for applicants to successfully close with Bank of America as their lender. So we recommend that you do not use Bank of America for your pre-approval or your mortgage, as their mortgage products likely aren't suited for affordable units. But with that, all that said, you can select any bank or lender that you would like. We just strongly recommend that you choose someone that has experience with affordable housing programs. There is a link, if you don't know where to start, or if you just are curious, there's a link included on page 10 of the information packet that's going to direct you to the Massachusetts Housing Partnership website. And they're a nonprofit, they're a great resource to find lenders who are familiar with affordable housing. The mortgage pre-approval standards also state that you must provide a down payment of at least 3% of the purchase price. Half of that, so 1.5% of the purchase price, must come from your own funds. So your loan or mortgage can be for up to 97% of the purchase price. Yep, so how many houses are available for the lottery? Just one home. So there's 8 total homes at this development, but only one of them is affordable and is included in this lottery. So this is just for one home. All right, so eligibility for the affordable housing program. There are 4 main eligibility requirements. These are listed on page 4 of the information packet. The first is that everyone in the household has to qualify as a first-time home buyer. There are exceptions to this requirement, and we'll talk about those in just a minute. Even if your household qualifies for one of the exceptions, you would need to sell your current home prior to closing on the affordable home at Village at Silver Hill. The second eligibility requirement is that a household's income and assets need to be below the maximum allowable income and asset limit. We'll go through a lot more of that as well. The third eligibility requirement is that households do need to have a mortgage pre-approval. So, like I said, you don't need it to be submitted with your lottery application, but you do need to be pre-approved for a mortgage if you are to move forward in the process. The fourth, there's actually five. The fourth is that households cannot have financial interest in the development or be a related party. So if you're working with the sales team or if you're related to the owner or the developer, you may not be eligible for this lottery. And then unique to this lottery, like I mentioned at the top of the session, this is a age-restricted opportunity. So at least one member of the household needs to be 55 years or older, for 55 years of age or older to qualify for the lottery. It doesn't need to be the head of household. It needs to be someone that's living in the unit, someone that's in your household who's going to be a household member at the home that is over the age of 55 or older. So to circle back on the first eligibility criteria, just to explain more, everyone in the household must be a first-time home buyer. So all household members are considered first-time home buyers if they haven't, within the last 3 years, owned a home. So this includes through joint ownership. So if you were, or if any household member was on the deed of a property along with a partner or a spouse, they were still considered an owner of that home. There are 5 exceptions to this first-time home buyer rule, and they're all listed in the information packet. I'm just going to highlight the 3 that we see the most often. The first exception is someone that's referred to as a displaced homemaker. So this is someone who hasn't worked outside of the home for years. They've owned the home with a partner or spouse, but they're no longer owning the home because of a recent divorce or legal separation. So they're no longer on the home deed, but they have technically owned a home within the last 3 years. The second exception to the homebuyer rule, a first-time homebuyer rule, is a single parent with at least joint custody of 1 or more children, or someone who's pregnant and is now being displaced and is looking for a new home to buy, usually due to a breakup or divorce. And then the third exception is an age-qualified household. So this applies to households with a member over the age of 55, and someone in that household is selling or has sold a home recently in order to purchase an affordable property. So if you qualify for those exceptions, you do still need to sell your home prior to buying the home at Village at Silver Hill. This could mean that you need to finalize a divorce before the time of closing and ensure that your name is no longer on that deed, which, sometimes is not possible because, divorce proceedings and things like that may take a while. So we just want to put that out there so that everybody's aware of what the requirements are. Okay, so I have a question here that came in directly. Does the 55-year-old member have to be a U.S. citizen, or could they be a green card holder? That is a great question, and I will get back to you on that. So if you could actually, in that direct message to me, leave me your email address, I will get back to you on that tomorrow. I have an inkling, but I don't want to give you an answer one way or the other because I'm really not sure. That's a good question, though. All right, the second eligibility criteria that I wanted to circle back on. One other question here too. Can this home be passed down on a will to members of the household below age 55 if the person over 55 passes away? No. There would need to be someone in the household who was over the age of 55 when the property is being transferred. It's a great question too, but there would have to be a member over the age of 55 because of the condo requirements. So let me just break down this email here. Hold on one second. Okay. Oh, what I wanted to do. All right. So income limit. Since this is an affordable unit, like I said, it's being made available at a purchase price that's much lower than other homes in the development, and it's only going to be made available to households with total annual income at or below that 80% of area median income amount. The maximum income limits are listed everywhere. They're listed on the application, they're listed in the information packet, they're listed on your screen now if you have it up, and the income limits are by household size. So you'll see on your screen, and I'm going to read it if you don't. If you're a one-person household, the maximum income limit is $82,950. Two-person household, $94,800. Three-person household, $106,650. A four-person household, $118,450. If you're a five-person household, your income would need to be below $127,950, and a six-person household, that total household income to qualify for this program would need to be below $137,450. So you're not required, again, to submit verification of income when you submit your lottery application. But if you are entered into the lottery, if we receive your lottery application and you're eligible for the lottery after our preliminary review, you're going to be sent a documentation requirements guide. That guide is something that you're just going to want to keep with you. It's going to give you all of the information that you're going to need about what to submit in terms of your income, assets, and tax documentation after the lottery if you are asked to move forward. So we just ask that you take a look at that to kind of prepare for what you might need to submit to us if you are one of the top households following the lottery. And so although we don't need anyone to submit verification of income right now, we'd still like to give a basic overview of how your income will be calculated. I also should have mentioned too on that other screen, so the asset limit for this homeownership opportunity, this lottery, is $275,000. And that includes equity if there's a home that's about to be sold because of that first-time home buyer exception that we mentioned. So $275,000, that's all household assets. So everyone in the household will be pulled together for that. All right, so back to income. So income for this program, for the affordable housing program, is counted as a projection of your income over the next 12 months, and that's for all household members. So this includes bonuses and overtime, amounts that maybe aren't guaranteed from week to week. We do our best to project what your income is over the next, or is projected to be over the next 12 months to get that estimate. The only exception in terms of income that we don't count is wage income for anyone under the age of 18. So if you have a minor in your household that's earning a wage, we're not going to count their wage income. And then dependent full-time students who are working, we only count the first $480 when we're determining income eligibility. We are required to count gross income. So not your net income, it's the amount you make before taxes. So although you don't take home that full amount of any salary that you might have, we do need to count that gross income according to the program regulations. How we calculate income is not one size fits all. So everyone's income circumstances are unique. There's going to be some applicants who have a steady weekly salary. It's consistent throughout the year, but there are also people who are self-employed or who are working seasonally. So in those circumstances, we might need to look further into the past in order to project your anticipated income for the next 12 months. Specifically for self-employed household members, you're going to need to complete a profit and loss statement and provide supporting documentation. There is a sample profit and loss statement at the end of the application that, not your lottery application, but the certification application that you'd be filling out if you were one of the top households later on in the process. Your business expenses, if you're self-employed, are taken into account, but if you're not self-employed, it is always the gross income that we need to count. So in general, if there's any income you have been making in the last year we have to assume that you're going to continue to make it going forward. And that includes bonuses and overtime, which we understand aren't guaranteed. So this is unless we have some sort of definitive documentation stating that there's going to be no chance for overtime or bonuses in the next year, for example. That could be a letter from your employer stating that, overtime is going to be paid out in the next year, something like that. Sources of income that you're going to want to think of too that are listed on the application. It's not just wages we're looking for you to claim. That's any income coming into the household. So wages from self-employment or from an employer, Social Security income, child support, monthly retirement distributions if you're drawing out of a retirement account, unemployment or workman's compensation benefits, pension benefits that you might be receiving, periodic payments from friends or family. That would also include your assets would include a down payment assistance if a family member is gifting you part of your down payment. And then also included in income is any assets that are generating income. There is no minimum household income requirement for this lottery, but again, you're going to have to qualify for that mortgage pre-approval. So you would need to meet the lender or bank's requirements for the pre-approval. But again, no formal income requirements. For assets, I see there's a couple questions, so I'm going to do assets real quick. So households can't, like I said, have a total of more than $275,000 in assets at the time of the application. Assets include any funds that you'd be using towards that future down payment, like I mentioned. It also includes, cash and savings and checking accounts, CDs, the net value of your stocks or retirement accounts. That could be 403b, 401k, bonds, even your Venmo or PayPal accounts. So those are considered assets. If you have money that's stored away in there, we're going to be asking for the statements from you for the last 3 months. So for retirement accounts, you might think it's a little strange that we need to count money that you have tied up in that retirement account, especially since some of you might not be planning to access the money for many years. The program does require us to do so, since you could, in theory, access the account to withdraw funds even with that large penalty. So it is the post-penalty amount or the net cash value of the retirement account that we would need to count. So you'd be asked to get a letter from that financial institution listing the post-penalty amount. We do not need verification of personal assets. So if you have, personal cars, jewelry, we don't need confirmation of the asset if it's personal like that. All right, so a few things have come in here for direct messages. What would happen if that person over 55 died after ownership? So I don't know exactly what would happen with the condo association, but it would be an issue. So if there was no one in the household at any point after ownership, if the 55-year-old was no longer in the home, I don't know if the household would then need to sell. It would be coordinated with the state, so the Department of Housing and Community Development that oversees the Affordable Housing Program and the Condo Association. Those two entities would need to, along with the buyer, discuss. Can the person over 55 just be a friend of other people in the application, or everyone in the application needs to be a relative? It just needs to be household members. So it doesn't need to be a blood relative or anything like that. But if the household, the 55-year-old needs to be living in the unit as their permanent resident in order for them to be counted on the application. So you shouldn't just be listing a friend on there because you need someone over the age of 55. But if they're going to be living with you and moving in, they can be listed. Is property tax additional? If so, do you know how much it would be? It is additional. This is something that I wish I had on hand. We can give you the estimated amount if you want to send me a direct message with your email address. That's something that I meant to do beforehand, but yes, it is. Homeowners would be paying the home, property tax. And I can tell you that the property tax is based off of the affordable price. So it's not as if you'll be paying your property tax for the market rate analysis for this home, because that would be over $1 million. You're going to be paying the property tax on the purchase price. This is the 277.8. Is there any way to find out how much taxes the owner of this house will have to pay annually? Yep. And whether it's based on, so it is, yep. So thank you for that message. It is based on the affordable price, not the market price, thankfully. And if you want to send me your email address, I will be able to get the estimated figures to you. And I apologize again for not having that on hand. Yep. Oh, thanks, babe. Yep, so my colleague Dave Cashman there, the tax rate in Weston is 11.84 per thousand. And that's how we'd be figuring it out there. Again, the purchase price is 277.8. All right. So the lottery eligibility, keep coming with the questions, but I'm going to move on to lottery eligibility. So as mentioned earlier, if you have, if you're interested in this opportunity, you should apply as early as possible. Just get that process started. We're going to review your application. It's very brief at this point since there's no supporting documentation that's needed. But we'll contact you if anything appears to be missing, or if you use the JOT form, if you use the online application, it will let you know if anything is missing. You want to make sure you get that confirmation email after submitting the lottery application, and that will confirm for you that the application has gone through. So if you're found eligible for the lottery by SCB Housing, you're going to be sent a lottery application number in the form of a series of numbers. So this is a number that's going to be drawn in the lottery. It's meant to be an anonymous identifier, so your name isn't called during the lottery itself. It's not a ranking of any sort. It just corresponds with the order in which we received and approved your application. So if you were the very first person to submit your completed application for this opportunity, your number would be A.001. On your application, you will have indicated your household type as either type 1, 2, or 3. So all household types are eligible to apply for this 3-bedroom home, but type 3 households will have top priority for the home. So that means that all type 2 households are going to be behind the type 3 households, and all type 1 households will be behind those type 2 households on the waiting list that's established after the lottery. There is additional details on the household composition and household types on page 8 of the info packet, but just for your reference, all households with 4, 5, or 6 members are considered type 3 households, as well as some 3-person households. For example, a household with 2 dependents, or a 2-person household who requires that additional 3rd bedroom due to a medical need. Again, the lottery application deadline is June 26th at 2 p.m. So it's about a little bit under a month away. The lottery itself is going to be held virtually on July 11th at 6 p.m. And we will create the waiting list shortly after the lottery. So the top households at that point will be invited by SCB Housing to move forward to reserve the unit, submit their documentation before doing so. The lottery itself will be in the same format as the information session. So your numbers it'll be via Zoom in this way, where there's a screen so you can see the lottery happening. We'll have the lottery box next to me, and I'll be pulling the lottery numbers and showing them to you so you can see what was drawn. And it'll be recorded. Every lottery number is going to be drawn. Sometimes when we think of lotteries, we think there's just one home, so there's going to be one winner. We're just going to draw one number, but that's not the case here. We draw every number in order to establish the waiting list for this home. So it creates a priority for the next steps in the process by having that waiting list. So if you're watching on the night of the lottery, it's sometimes hard to tell what your placement actually means, since all household types are going to be mixed in with one another. So after the lottery, we sort the results and send you the waiting list. So it's a lot more clear to you once you get that email from us with the waiting list showing where you actually fall. So for example, if you're watching on lottery night, if a type 1 household is drawn first in the lottery, they're still going to be behind all of the type 2 and 3 households on the waiting list. And then also there could be households that were entered into the lottery but were found ineligible by SCB housing later on in the process, or ultimately just decided not to purchase the home. So if your number is drawn later in the lottery, or if you find that on the waiting list you're number 5, number 6, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to be able to move forward in the process. You might still have the opportunity to move forward and purchase the home, as people on the waiting list drop off ahead of you potentially. You don't have to be present for the lottery because, like I said, following the lottery, we're going to inform all of the households no later than the next morning of the lottery placement and results. When you're reviewing that email after the lottery, you're going to find your lottery application number, and you'll be able to see where you fall on the waiting list. And that top household on the waiting list will be sent an invite to move forward in the process. And that's when you'd be asked to provide all of your income, asset, and tax documentation that's required to confirm your eligibility for the affordable housing program. So hopefully by that point, if you're one of the top households, you've been able to review the documentation requirements guide and gather the information that's spelled out in that document. You'll have about a week, 10 days to provide all of the requested documentation. And then once SCB Housing receives that application package from you, we're going to review it. We'll respond to you within a few days and let you know if there's anything missing from the package. I do want to say that most applicants don't submit a 100% complete application after the process, after the lottery, because of all of the information that is required to be submitted. And also sometimes because maybe all of the information was provided, but something that we're reviewing causes us to have some more follow-up questions for you, like reviewing bank statements and seeing deposits, or reviewing your pay stubs. We have questions on them. And that's perfectly fine. We'll work with you through the process to make sure that we get a completed application and all of the information we need. And that's just why we encourage applicants to prepare your documentation early. That's why we provide that documentation requirements guide. So it's as painless as possible once the time comes that you do need to supply all of the information to us. All right. Couple more direct messages here. How soon after the lottery will the house be able to be available to move in? So the developer let us know that it should be available very soon after the lottery. So the lottery is July 11th, I believe, and it would be available soon after that. But just keep in mind that we do, the closing process takes a little while, usually at least 30 days. You won't be approved right away because you do need to submit all of the documentation to us. And then, as I'm about to mention, your file also needs to be reviewed by the state, the Department of Housing and Community Development, in order to be fully approved, have that final approval. So while the home might be ready in July or at the end of July, you likely would not be moving in until towards the end of the summer, or at least the end of August. Is the lottery application number the same as the unique ID when I submitted the application on JotForm? No. So the unique ID that you received in JotForm, it has a lot more. I think it says SEB hyphen and then maybe 7 or 8 numbers. That's not it. If you've submitted the application online and you haven't heard from us via email yet, meaning a personal email to you from info@scbhousing.com or an email from noreply@scbhousing.com, that's because we haven't fully processed your application yet. When we do process your application, you'll get that that lottery application number from us, which will be A dot and then I think 4 numbers after it. Yep, so that'll be coming soon. All right, So if you're ultimately found eligible by SCB Housing after the lottery, and you're that top household, our next step in the process is to send your file to the state, which again is the Department of Housing and Community Development. They're going to do a file review as well and give us the green light that you are eligible to move forward in the process. Once DHCD has approved your application, the process is similar to the steps that you would be taking if you were purchasing a market rate home. Also, we always want to mention at this point, you can decide to hire an attorney. We always encourage that, someone to assist you in navigating through the home buying process. You know, it's a huge decision to purchase a home. We want to make sure that everyone understands the process and it feels like they're well represented. So once DHCD approves that application, we're going to put you in touch with the owner, the developer of the home, to schedule a time to tour the home if you haven't already. And then at that point, you would complete a reservation agreement. And in order to reserve the home, you'll have to put down a $500 refundable deposit. At that point, it would be required. After you reserve the home, you'll have about 10 business days to sign the purchase and sale agreement and then place the required deposit, which is that 1.5% of the sales price minus that $500 that you've already paid to reserve the unit. Your purchase and sale agreement might include certain agreed upon contingencies and a closing date, and it's one of the final steps in the home buying process. Once you've signed that P&S, you will then need to go back to the lender who issued your mortgage pre-approval and obtain that mortgage commitment. So the process varies a little bit to get the mortgage commitment depending on your lender, but generally they're going to ask for and review all of your documentation up to this point, which would be your purchase and sale agreement, the deed rider, all of that. They'll also do an appraisal of the home. Households need to remain eligible for the affordable housing program up until closing. So about 3 to 4 weeks before your closing date, we at SCB Housing will also conduct a final review. At that point, we would ask for updated pay stubs, since it may have been a couple months now since you've applied for the lottery, and it could also include updated bank statements. We're going to want to see your mortgage commitment letter at that point, and then we will forward your final package to DHCD again for their final review. So if your household's eligibility is maintained, you're still eligible for the affordable housing program, you're going to move right to closing. And once you've closed on the home, you can move in. There's not going to be any future income or asset eligibility reviews for your household. I did mention earlier, because there was a question about it, if the household member who's over the age of 55 moves out at some point after your closing, that would be an issue, but your income and assets do not need to remain under those income and asset limits that I showed on the screen. So that about covers what I wanted to get through from the information packet. Again, this is an online application, and you do have the option, if you do not want to fill out the online application for the lottery, you can go online and get that downloadable version. But we encourage everyone to use that online submission form if you can. Are there any other questions, things that I didn't cover that you're curious on? And again, that link is on our website for the application. It's also on your screen right now, that JOT form link for Silver Hill. I'll just wait around for a few minutes in case anybody has any other questions. And then I know that question came in about whether or not the person over the age of 55 needed to be a U.S. resident or not. So I will get back to you on that tomorrow. Anyone else? It's a great opportunity. We hope that you know, the information was useful and that you take a look at that online application and the information packet if there's anything else that you wanted to read more about that I mentioned. June 26th, again, is the application deadline. So if you have any other questions after tonight, you can go ahead and email us at info@scbhousing.com or give us a call. We'll be happy to give that information to you. All right, thanks so much for attending. I appreciate it, and we look forward to getting your application. Have a good night. Oh, we got someone. Thank you. Thanks again. Have a good night.